short video, we're going to look at the answers to interview questions you wish you had given. And let me explain exactly what we mean here. So you've just been for an interview for a job, and it's a job that you really wanted. Now deep down you know you could do this job, but here you are kicking yourself sometime after the event. Now this is a very common scenario, and most people either clam up and freeze during the interview, or they talk themselves out of the job. And it's very common, and this is what you need to guard against. Now either way, you're inclined to answers to the interview questions you wish you had given, and this is what you need to look for. So why is it so hard to find answers to interview questions during the interview, but have all the answers 10 minutes later when they're of no use to you, save for driving you nuts? Well, often there is one job interview question that really gets you, and you replay it again and again after the event, but during the interview no answers would come. This is quite a common scenario. So what you need to figure out is really, what's your killer job interview question? What's going to blow your next interview? Now, the chances are that it will be a personality related question. These are the ones that we are most blind to. These are the questions that blindside us time and again. And if you're asked this terrible job interview question early on in the interview, then the chances are that the entire experience goes bad for you. And it's very difficult to recover from a bad one once you get into that position. So you'll either clam up and try not to speak at all, or you will start to blether and gibber and talk nonsense. And from the other side of the desk, I see this all the time. So what is the solution? What are you supposed to do about this? Well, the secret here really is that you need to ask more questions. But what are the questions to ask at an interview? That's the big thing here. So you need to ask questions, but what are you going to ask? Well, my advice is to stay away from the usual and the boring. Remember, I've just interviewed and spoke to 20 people. So try and come up with questions that have a little imagination and show a little insight into you and your experience. For Pete's sake, don't bore the interviewer. So good questions to ask at an interview would be something along these lines. What's the most difficult thing about this job as far as you're concerned? So if you ask that to a line manager, that's a really good question that opens things up. Or another thing you could say would be, what do you think will be my biggest challenge in this job role? Now, the reason that these are good questions to ask at an interview, is that the first question, will get them talking about their concerns. And that means that you get a chance to reassure them during the interview, so you can overcome them. You can come back to those concerns, feel that way, come back to them and make sure that you allay those fears. In the second question, you're making a presumption that you already have the job, and subconsciously everyone makes the same presumption. Everyone in that interview would do the same. Now the psychology is actually very powerful, and it will work in your favour if you do it well. So these are two tips. There's two great questions that you can use. It might help you to avoid blowing your next interview.